Goodwill Hunting is not a film I watched when it was released for some reason. I'm not sure why. Maybe because I thought it was about mathematics or something. But we're going to discuss today the film and some themes in the film that bring up some topics that are quite helpful. So we will be talking about spoilers, just letting everybody know there might be some spoilers in the discussion. So Harsh, could you just for people who haven't seen the film, could you just give a very brief outline of what this Goodwill Hunting, what the film's about?
So, Goodwill Hunting is about a young man who is very brilliant, but because of his past childhood, especially, he has been facing difficulties. So, he works as a janitor at one of the most reputed engineering colleges in the world, the MIT, and where he just gets all the problem and solves it before anyone. But he can't progress in his life, and somehow he is being discovered by this professor at the MIT, and he wants to harness his potential to so-called let him achieve what he can, and he brings his friend as a counselor. But sometimes, the destiny has different plan. So this is about that how a brilliant mind can have a different destiny that we think, which might be different from what we think it should be.
Yes, yes. Yeah, that's, I mean, just in that summary there, you can think of how many different topics you can talk about there, going from mentoring, childhood traumas, brilliant minds, how people who think differently, how they are supposed to deal with the world, because it's not easy for those types of people. But we should mention at this point, obviously, the acting was Robin Williams, Matt Damon, Ben Affleck. So extremely well-made film, well-acted film, and depicting some of the things you just talked about. Then, what was your overall impression of this film? Because I know you've seen a lot of films, and I know that you have special interest in analysing films, the meaning of film. And what was it about this film, in a general sense, that that stuck with you?
So I watched this movie when I was in my university, and it did leave an impression on me, especially that you don't have to follow a particular way of life, even if you are thinking differently. People, your parents, your professors, your mentors might have an idea that what you should do. But the reason this movie left an impression is that let the choice be with the person who actually owns the mind. And it was a very important movie for me during my university days, because as I was growing up, there was these expectations from me, but I wanted to do what I want to do. And I think this is one of the challenge, and in a youth we see that should we do what is expected us to do, and should we do what we want to do. And the portrayal by Matt Damon, there's this energy in him, there is this anger in him, there is need to prove in him to establish dominance. And in contrast to that, the type of mentor that or the type of counselor that Robin Williams has played, the character, is left an impression in a way that maybe this is what we need in our society to help the youth, especially young people. So that's why I thought that this movie had a very lasting impression on me.
Yeah, I mean, you've brought up so many things there, and obviously an impressionable time at university for most people. I think the issue of mentors is a really interesting one, because I mean, obviously some of the things that we write on menPsyche website are in relation to guiding people, giving tips, giving permission for people to think the way they do. And the things I've heard you talk about before is perhaps a lack of mentors these days for some guys. Can you talk a little bit about how this movie portrayed the mentor relationship, in particular with the Matt Damon character, so the genius, the maths genius, and how he was mentored by the therapist in this instance was Robin Williams. Can you talk about mentoring?
Yeah, so the one of the most fascinating thing about this movie was that Robin Williams, who's playing the character of Sean, is not buying into the intellect of this guy. He want to see him beyond his capabilities, what he actually is. And for him, it's a fear, it's a afraid person, a young man who just is so afraid of doing things that he has created his comfort zone. And I think that's very important thing for a mentor is to somehow see the real person inside every student and help them understand their real self. They have to look their students beyond their possibilities and capabilities and not impose their version. Rather, there is a old saying that a teacher should can help you how to see, not what to see. And
Mm-hmm.
I think in that dimension, in that Robin Williams was trying for him to actually see that what he was, what Matt Damon is trying to explain himself through what he can do, all his intellect. What he was, Robin Williams was trying is that go beyond that to so that he can actually see there is a scared young kid in him which was abused as a child and somehow help Matt Damon to deal with that trauma so that because if there is an unresolved trauma, a lot of kids do have this this fear in them or like a chip on the shoulder, which because of society or parents or a bad surrounding, it can be there. So that's where I think the role of mentor comes in to not just guide them in their destination, but also let them arrive at the starting point to give them a better start. So I think that was very important part of mentoring that was shown in this movie, self-discovery.
Yeah, great point, because I think it's easy to look at this film from the point of view of Matt Damon, and especially if you're into mathematics, science, or something else where perhaps you're having special abilities, it's actually easy to see the film from his point of view. But actually, I hadn't thought of it as looking at it from the mentors, all the mentors that are out there in society watching this film, and how they can actually interact with someone like that, how they can bring out what's there, not just from the genius point of view, because quite frankly, most of geniuses, but as you said, from the childhood trauma point of view, how to
Mhm.
deal with someone like that, and how to bring out the best, and what exactly is your role as a mentor. I think that's a really good point, and it's shown very nicely in this film.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So there's also there are two type of teachers shown in this movie. One is who is harnessing, trying to get his potential out there, the mathematician, the professor, who thinks that he has a lot to offer to the world, which he's seeing the utility of that brilliant mind. But the other mentor is seeing the human in that brilliant mind, not the utility. And I think that this is very stark depiction in this movie is that I think the one of the reason the world has suffered because they didn't treat the capable people with kindness, and they ended up in order to leave their mark sometimes to destructive things because it's the humanity that in this movie is shown that one teacher is tapping his mind and one teacher is tapping his soul, and it's the way it's shown, and especially in the end they both come together because that's your job as a teacher. You can guide them but you can't make the journey for them, or you can't tell them what exactly to do, just let them decide it. And this contrast of teaching style and mentoring, and I think that this is one thing that's missed in this movie. Most people might not have thought it, that for Robin Williams to succeed, the professor has also to succeed in showing Matt Damon that he is not just the mind.
Yes.
He's beyond that. So that was the humane angle of this movie is what which leaves an emotion with the viewer.
Yes, yes, I love that. Seeing more than just a giant brain walking around. I'm sure certain people can relate to being treated like that. I think that's a great point you make there. What about some of the other relationships in the film? Because I think there's quite an important relationship between his best friend, um,
Yes.
played by Ben Affleck, and also the girlfriend, Minnie Driver. Can you make some comments on what you took out of those two relationships in particular?
See, the Ben Affleck character is like a brother character who knows that this guy is brilliant, Matt Damon is brilliant, and he has to protect him. So he has his protective nature, but he's tired of it because he's seeing this guy of immense potential, and just from his point of view, he's wasting his talent.
Mm.
And his desire is that one day he will do something for himself and not use him as a crutch, and not uh, measure his life, especially the Matt Damon, measure his life with respect to Ben Affleck, but by the people of his own caliber, maybe.
Yes.
And also, the character of Minnie Driver is that she is impressed by his acumen and his wits and everything, but she can see through what he's trying to hide, and she openly confronts him that you're not letting me in. And I think that that's what very important part in the movie is for this destroying this facade that he has created, which won't let the world to move in, because he has been scarred by the world, scared by the world.
Yes.
And it's a very good interplay of like these characters are helping him grow, and also destroying this distorted ego that he has,
Mm-hmm.
so that he can actually blossom finally.
Yes, I think the relationships, the complexity that has been shown in this film in such a, well, simple way, if you like. I think it highlights
Mhm.
so many important things: the girlfriend relationship, the best friend, the mentor, the professor. It's
Mhm.
been written so well and explained
Mhm.
well. I think you've just brought up a few of the issues there.
Mhm.
Other thing in this film, I just wanted to ask your opinion. There's an interesting scene when Matt Damon, I think he's applying for a job, and he
Yes.
I don't know whether he's having a moment of truth telling or whether he's having a moment of defensiveness. He hasn't quite worked
Yes.
how to be in the world yet. What did you make of that scene? He went for a job interview, and then he had a resulting sort of a mini rant, if you like, a
Mhm.
trolling session. What did you make of that scene
Mhm.
and what he said in the job interview?
I think that reflects the distrust he has with the world, that maybe you want me because I can do this, but maybe you will misuse me, because he
Mm-hmm.
goes on a rant that you will might end up me using like this, which might be in destructive purposes, and he is not having good confidence with the NSA. And also, that what comes in is that the nihilistic nature also, that sometimes great minds have, that why should I do it, the world is not going to change.
Mm-hmm.
And and also this feeling can develop that maybe I should not act, and maybe I should not interfere in this. And I think that's the one of the good point this movie raises, that are we making it comfortable for these brilliant minds out there to
Yes.
contribute to the society, and can we actually accept them as they are, and develop a trust and confidence with them, so that they will come forward and make positive changes in the world, or actually make the world bit better
Mm-hmm.
for everyone. Because you are seeing in this movie is that guy can actually figure out very faster than even the most experts, and even the most brilliant mind, also called the accepted brilliant mind. He can see through that.
Yes.
So if the world has to can move beyond its templates of degrees and its accolades and recognition, and see these people who are actually very brilliant and very applied person, we can harness their capabilities for the betterment of the humanity,
Yes.
instead of making them jump the roofs of these structures that we have created, because they might not be feeling comfortable in those structures, but they have a lot to offer.
Yes, exactly. How to deal with difference, how to deal with intelligence, brilliance, how to, with different ways of approaching things, different behaviors. I think it was all portrayed extremely well in quite a few scenes in this film, actually. Now, if we're talking about, obviously on the website menPsyche, we're talking to young guys, all sorts of guys. We're talking to anyone who's interested in these topics. But what would you say, keeping in mind the film, what tips would you have for guys these days who are facing confusion, maybe anger and loss of meaning in life? Because I think Matt Damon, the character, he got a bit nihilistic there. He had a bit of a meaning of life. He couldn't fit in to what people wanted, as you just explained. What would you say to young guys, keeping in mind the film, who are facing this kind of loss of meaning in life?
I think that one of the ways you can deal with this confusion is find a safe space for yourself. It can be, you can find a friend or maybe a mentor. If you can't, you can just become friend of yourself and first take care of yourself. And one of the way I think is that, writing about it or recording somewhere so that you can self-reflect on yourself, what you are thinking. Because sometimes you get a moment of clarity and that can help you. But later on, the confusion can rebuild. So you can go back to that moment of clarity and start it from there. So that's one of the way that these young men can somehow self-guide themselves, because it's very hard to get a very good mentor, because he might not, or she might not understand or see the world as you want to project or explain. So it's one of the way I think that the young man can do is let the confusion settle in and just maybe slow down a bit and just try to find out the point of confusion. What is actually confusing them? Is it the behavior of other people? Is it their own behavior? Is it the perception of the person is having about the world or himself? So I think that somehow finding an anchor in your own personality by recording or journaling maybe, or finding a friend who can actually act as a like a pointer for you, that no, you are thinking too much, or you might not be thinking too much. Last time you were talking about this. So somehow find this stability point, and you can self-create it. I think that will be very helpful for the young men, so that they can plot their own course and they can make their own decision how they want to proceed with their life, not become dependent on other people if there is no help. So I think that's one of the way to do that.
Yes, that's true. That's true. It's within the ability of many people to just take it in their own hands, if you like, and not wait for other people to necessarily guide them, but actually start plotting their own course. I think that could probably help many people, that sort of approach. Thank you for that. One thing I did want to also ask you about in this film was that Matt Damon is obviously the smartest guy in the room, almost, if you want to talk about it intellectually. There's a point where the topic comes up that even if you're the smartest the best in the business, you're the smartest in there are many people, as depicted in this film, who are the best at what they do, but they effectively walk away. So they don't play the game. They don't join in what is expected. They still have fulfilling lives. And it's like permission for people who might be very talented to walk away from what's expected. And I think that was depicted nice in the film. Do you have any comments to make about that?
Yeah, I think that's one of this, like, it's a question of human life value, that even though you are the most brilliant mind in the room, but you still have the right to live with happiness, maybe with a purpose, maybe without suffering. And while the world is asking you to contribute to ease their suffering, it's not actually taking care of you while you are suffering.
Mm-hmm.
So the person who is actually contributing a lot, if that person is suffering, what do you think that is going to happen to the next person who will see that, oh my god, the last time this person who actually contributed suffered, so why should I do that? This happened with Van Gogh. He was creating one of the finest pieces in art, and it was understood way later on, and he had as a life of suffering. See, it's not about, I'm not saying that you don't suffer in the life. Okay, suffering is there, but like complete devoid of happiness, complete devoid of even love or compassion, I think no, it doesn't matter. They will, that people like that will happily say, take my intelligence and give me some nicety. And I think that that's where the problem we can actually point in, that if we stop seeing the utility in the people and seeing what they can contribute just in that dimension, and we can actually see that that's also a life which deserves to live according to its own rule. It should not be forced to live according to our rules also. And if we make a very good environment for these very intelligent people or brilliant people who can actually contribute a lot, I
Yes,
think that world will be better off.
definitely. I think put that on a t-shirt, don't just look at people for their utility and what you can get out of them, but seeing them in their whole, as a whole human. That might be nice, bringing humanity back and giving people permission, even people who are
Yes,
yes and supposed to do this and that and achieve. Just
yes.
I wanted to ask one final question about childhood trauma, because that's obviously a topic that's getting a lot more coverage these days. We're understanding trauma individually and through a lot of health information that's coming out now about trauma, the effects of trauma, childhood trauma. There was through the sessions of Robin Williams with Matt Damon, this was sort of worked through. They worked through the trauma. They showed the sessions and they showed his progression, obviously not linear. Some days were better than others. Do you have any comment about this film in terms of messages that people who are struggling with childhood trauma and may not have professional help, but just wanting to understand what it's about, what they could perhaps get from this film on that topic?
I think if we can see through the anger of people and see a scared little kid who once wanted love and instead got abused, I think it won't be hard to understand why that person become angry, violent person, or who will think so defensive about himself. That's one of the way to understand what's the negativity or the crimes that are happening, all these this dissent or discontent out there. But we have to see beyond it at the root cause. That because there's a saying that hurt people hurt people. So yeah, I think we have to look not just in reforming people, we also think about the preventing. And I think that this movie shows that with compassion and kindness, just accepting them as they are and telling them it was not their fault, but they can choose to, they might not have any choice in their as a child in their past, but they do have a choice in the future. And somehow provide them with that, maybe a leap of faith in them, that you might not have been able to regulate your emotions, or you might not be able to handle the abuse that was done to you, but you still have a choice to move forward, to improve, to take care of yourself and not hurt people because of the hurt you already have. I think this movie reflects that, the power of kindness and acceptance that can have a lasting impression and can start the road to recovery for people who are abused. Yes.
Yeah, great. I think we'll leave it there, but that's a great note to finish on, a really nice message for people. I think it's a fantastic film for people who wanted to look at maybe mental health, purpose in life, relationships, therapy, mentoring, kindness. It really depicts a lot of these themes extremely well and probably makes a lot of people feel better, I think, about themselves. The line that's repeated is, "It's not your fault." And it's just repeated over and over towards the end of the film, I think it is. And I think that itself would probably help a lot of people. But thanks a lot, Harsh. Thanks for going through that today. And we'll leave some details below for people who would like to just make contact with our website and see if there's some articles on these topics that might help them. But next time we'll talk about another film. And I look forward to speaking to you next time. Thanks, Harsh.
Thank you.
Please join us at menPsyche.com for more conversations, questions and answers. We hope to see you there.